Hello, and welcome to another edition of Digosec Presents. Today, I'll be interviewing Mr. Amjad Ali, not only a businessman, but the Honorary Consul General of Pakistan to Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Mr. Ali.
Thank you.
Mr. Ali, you were a member of the class of '69. Did you live in Diego Martin at the time?
Yes, in fact, I didn't live too far from the school. I lived on St. Lucian Road, and I commuted to school by cycling. And I would even ride home for lunch. So it also kept me fit.
Good. What was the reputation of Digosec back in '69?
Actually, in '69 and thereafter, and even before, Diego Martin Secondary was reputed as probably the most outstanding secondary school of its type in the country. It was nestled in a beautiful part of the island in Diego Martin. We were fortunate to have greenery all around us, and we were between two hills. And so the students had very relaxed opportunity to study and excel. And at that time, the school also had a lot of Canadian teachers on the exchange program. And that also helped us as students and even the local teachers in how they share ideas and methodologies and so.
Was Digosec your first choice when you had to choose secondary schools?
Actually, no, it was St. James Secondary, but because I was living in St. James,
Okay.
and I moved right in between results, and it came out, and I got a transfer to Diego Martin Secondary.
Okay. I know a lot of people would have wanted to go to QRC, St. Mary's College. Did you have those kinds of feelings?
Well, I was just very much impressed by what the secondary schools that I knew at the time what they were doing, which was St. James and Diego Martin. So I was very happy attending any one of those.
Tell me about some of your fondest memories of Digosec.
Diego Martin Secondary, I tell you, it's probably the best 5 years of my life. There was something so special about Diego Martin Secondary. In fact, I'll tell you, the students, when they left and went back to the school year after, I mean, I've seen them cry. The memories were so profound. There was something magical about Diego Martin Secondary. And I think part of that was its location. It was located in an area that was full of calmness and breeze. There was a lot of breeze. So it meant learning was easy from that perspective. And the teachers were also really good teachers. We had at that time a very stern principal, and Mrs. Superville, extremely stern. And the teaching system, I thought, was one that allowed for learning and proficiency, and I think there were students that really did extremely well at the school.
Were there anything that happened that you'd rather forget? Were there things that were unpleasant about Digosec back in those days?
Well, there was one unpleasant experience where the dean, very early in my stay there, where the dean had put a few of us to stand on the outside of the building for some misdemeanor. I can't remember what it was, in the midday sun. And he insisted that there must be no movement for that half an hour period. And I remember the sweat running down the back, tickling, and you could not have done anything about it, because if you only moved, it means you had to come back the next day. And that was just something that I remembered.
So what was the punishment like back then for students who broke the rules?
Well, we had detention. Detention was, and also there was some beating with the stick. Mr. Arthur was the one that dispensed. Fortunately, in my 5 years, I never got caned. But yes, there was the stick.
What about the discipline of the students?
Well, in those days, in my mind, things were a bit different from now. Respect was high on the agenda. And even in my case, I was a school prefect, and I got the same respect by the students as that of a school teacher. And I had the authority also to give detention for any misgivings or misbehavior or something. And I did give detentions, but the students were highly respectful and respectable in our time. There were no fights and stuff like that. It's mostly for speaking in class or something of the sort that you will really get yourself into trouble.
What about DegoSec, or is there anything in DegoSec that prepared you for what you're doing now in life? Because you said you like sciences, and yet I look at your CV and it seems as though you're a business person.
Yes.
So what is it about DegoSec that prepared you for later on in life?
Well, I think in DegoSec, the discipline that we were taught is what transcended my life into the field of business and other social aspects. It was a highly disciplined environment. And to me, it helped us, and it's something that I believe should exist in most places. If you operate in a nice, disciplined environment, which is what Diego Martin's secondary was, and that has helped me tremendously in my life, that I'm highly organized and so because of that experience.
After leaving DegoSec, where did you go as far as education goes?
I worked a bit in Trinidad, then I left and I went to Toronto. And I worked, and also I went to school. I went to Humber College. And I did chemistry also there. I did, but I went on to marketing mostly then, and that's what I found most enjoyable.
Was there a school spirit or a school culture back in '69? So that if you met a DegoSec alumni, you met DegoSec alumni, say 5-10 years down the road, without talking to them, you knew, okay, this person went to DegoSec.
Yes, there really was a great camaraderie that existed while we were at school and thereafter. In fact, I still know a few of my schoolmates, and Dr. Gludon is one of those who is the High Commissioner in Jamaica, and we speak regularly. She was here just last week, and she called me and we had a long chat.
Now, I'm looking at your resume. You're a member of several boards, volunteered in several for a number of years. What is your motivation?
That's a very nice question. You know, I have a simple theory, is that if you want to change something, you have to get involved. And it occurred to me in 1990 when we had the uprising. I was in Toronto at the time, and a professor from the university in Hamilton said to me, I never forgot that, he said, son, for you to change something, you have to get involved. And when I came back to Trinidad, that's what I did. I got involved in many organizations, and so even at religious level, to cause change. You know, my school teacher when I was young, my religious school teacher taught me something, and he said, you know, when you point one finger at someone, 3 is always pointing back at you. So it really means that you are the person that should be doing rather than asking, and that's what propelled me to get involved in these organizations.
What's interesting on your CV here, Honorary Consul General of Pakistan to Trinidad and Tobago. Tell me about that. What is it? First of all, how you got that position and what it is you do.
Well, to become an honorary consul, you have to meet certain criteria, and one of it is security. Obviously, you have to be cleared by the sending country security agency and by the receiving country. So in that case, it will be Pakistan, and in this case, it's Trinidad and Tobago. And it's quite an honorable position because I represent the sovereign country of Pakistan in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's like High Commissioner or Ambassador role, very similar. And our job is to look after Pakistanis that are in Trinidad and also to promote culture and economic activities and so between the two countries. Now, it's a job that at times could become very trying, because if you have nationals that are desirous of settling some problem, or they may end up with some difficulty or so, that's where you have to rise to the occasion.
Mr. Ali, where do you find the time and the energy to be the director of 6 companies?
That's a nice question. I believe in something called compulsion for closure, which is that I am consistently closing anything that I have to do, meaning I execute quite efficiently then. And if you see my desk, it is always highly organized and clean. So clutter to me is very confusing and difficult to work in. So that allows me to stay very, very much clinical in all these various discipline or activities that I do just by practicing compulsion for closure.
Okay. What is it about some of the companies you volunteer? For example, there's Field, the TTMA, TIDCO, Small Business Development. What is it about these institutions that motivate you to want to volunteer, to want to help, want to change?
The Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, which I was president for 2 years, and I was very fortunate because before that there was only one president that was there before 2 years. It's a 1-year term. So they must have been pleased with what I did, that they re-elected me for another term. But it's the foremost manufacturing business organization in the country. And I think that being a student of Diego Martin Secondary, I felt quite honored to lead the foremost business organization in Trinidad and Tobago, where we lobby for the manufacturing community, which is the second highest employer in the country after the government. So it's a very large, honorable organization to have led. On the question of TIDCO and the Small Business Development Company, those were cabinet appointed positions, and it was obviously something to behold if you are chosen by the cabinet to chair these companies. And feel it's in life, I think when you get older, you want to do what is called giving back. And for me, Field gives me that opportunity. It's the umbrella NGO in the country, it being the largest. We have 1,000 smaller NGOs that work under us. And I truly enjoy doing that work because it allows me to look after the needy and the poor and so.
Now it seems to me that the graduates who left DegoSec 20, 30 years ago, they have accomplished a whole lot more, they've gone higher than those who graduated recently. Why do you think that is?
Well, I could only speak for our time. As I said, there was a high level of discipline at Diego Martin Secondary, where credibility and performance was key. People jostled one another to come first and second, and so it was always a fight among your peers and your colleagues to beat the next one. So it was that kind of intensity that drove us to be the kind of individuals when we graduated, and I believe that propelled us into what we did thereafter. I don't know what the environment is like today with reference to teaching, and so I remember my geography teacher told me something when I was in first form. He said, Amjad, every day you enter this compound, you must leave in the evening more educated. And I remember that. In other words, I understood what he told me, that I had to learn more every day. So we were always pushing ourselves to excel.
So what is your advice to young people who are looking at this interview?
My advice is, apart from being respectful and respectable is to work on the areas that you are weaker on. Most of us get caught up spending more time on the areas that we are strong, and the areas that we are not as, we leave it behind. It's the reverse. If you're not got good in certain subjects, spend more time in those subjects. And homework is the most important part of it all if you want to do well. And also with that, keep aspiring to what would you like to be. And it is seen all over the world that people who have done very, very well came from very humble beginnings. So the question of lack of resources is not an excuse for excelling. I mean, if you look at the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in the world, is a Pakistani girl that did not have running water in a home, had no electricity or anything. And this is where what she used, she did not use poverty as an excuse. She worked hard and rose to become this exceptional young woman that she is. So that's my advice for the younger students now.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.